At the beginning of the story, we see a young Ben whose grandfather is telling him about a hidden treasure. Very few people knew about this treasure. Years later, when Ben had grown up, he decided to search for that treasure with a few other people. From his grandfather's story, Ben had a rough idea of where it might be. His grandfather had given him a note with one name written on it. Ben figured out that the name belonged to an old ship. His friend Riley helped him find the location of that ship. When they set out to look for the ship, Ben calculated that it must be hidden beneath this sheet of ice. They dug for quite a while, and finally they found the ship. Ben shared the news with everyone, and then thanked Ian, their companion who had financed the entire expedition. However, people had always called Ben and his family crazy, because they were searching for a treasure whose very existence no one could be sure of. Anyway, Ben entered the ship with his team. Looking around, they found a room filled with barrels of gunpowder. Searching more carefully, Ben found a dead body clutching a crate. When he checked, there was a package inside the crate, and inside that, a pipe. Ben wondered what could be so special about this pipe that someone had died for it. Just then he noticed some writing on the pipe. He used his own blood to try to understand what was written on it. When he deciphered the writing, he realized it was another clue. Ian did not like this at all. Even after spending so much money and effort, all they had gotten was one clue. Ian was very annoyed by this. But Ben solved the riddle hidden in the clue. He said it referred to an invisible map hidden on the back of one of America's most important documents, the Declaration of Independence. As soon as Ben said that reaching the document and obtaining it would be very difficult, Ian declared outright, "Then let's steal it." Ben flatly refused and said, "I won't let that happen." Ian then ordered his man Shaw to aim a gun at Ben, but Ian also knew very well that without Ben, who would solve the rest of the puzzles? So Ian threatened to kill Ben's friend Riley. Before things got worse, Ben lit a flare stick and said that if everyone didn't calm down, he would throw it onto the gunpowder. Everyone thought he was bluffing, but Ben threw the flare. Before it could hit the gunpowder, Ian caught it, but Ian didn't realize his own hand had some loose powder on it. Suddenly his hand caught fire, and he dropped the flare. The flare fell onto the gunpowder below. Knowing the ship would explode, Ian and Shaw ran away, leaving Ben and Riley inside. At the last moment, Ben found a hidden door, and he and Riley escaped. The entire ship exploded, and Ian thought Ben and Riley were dead. After returning to the city, Ben and Riley went to FBI headquarters and tipped them off that someone was going to steal the Declaration of Independence in a few days. No one believed them. Then the two went to the National Archives Museum, where the document was kept. They tried to meet the director, Abigail, but when they told her their story, and that a map was hidden on the back of the document, Abigail did not believe them. She thought everything they said was a lie. As they were leaving Abigail's office, they looked at the document and stared at it for a while. Suddenly Ben said they would have to steal it so it wouldn't fall into Ian's hands. Riley replied that stealing it was impossible. Had Ben seen the security? He then took Ben to the library and explained in detail how secure the document's location was. Ben said they had to do something that would get the document moved to the preservation room, where security was much lighter. Riley wasn't very confident in the plan, but he agreed to help. First they needed Abigail's fingerprints and then had to steal the preservation room codes. Ben sent Abigail a gift coated with a special chemical. When she pressed the button to hang her coat, her fingerprints would stay on it. Initially, the plan worked exactly as Ben wanted. Meanwhile, Ian was assembling his own men to attack the museum on the night of a gala. On gala night, once the document was moved to the preservation room, Ben, disguised as staff, entered the building without trouble. He changed back into his own clothes and met Abigail. Abigail was surprised to see him. Ben lied that he had given the museum a very large donation. Seizing the chance, he stole Abigail's champagne glass, which now bore her fingerprints. At the same time, Ian and his men arrived, entering through an underground tunnel. A little later, Ben reached the preservation room, but while Riley was monitoring him on camera, one of Ian's men cut their access. Ben decided to take the whole document frame and send it down by elevator. As soon as he came out, Ian and his people saw him and were stunned. They thought Ben was dead. They shot at him on sight, but Ben used the document's bulletproof glass to shield himself and survived. Somehow Ben got into the elevator and removed the document from its protective case. As he was trying to exit, he avoided Abigail's gaze. She had confirmed that Ben's name was not on the guest list. Ben hid in a museum store. But when he tried to leave with the document, the cashier thought he was stealing a souvenir copy the exact same size. She told Ben he had to pay, or she would call security. Ben quietly paid with a card because he didn't have much cash. As he left, Abigail saw him and followed. When Ben put the document into the back of Riley's van, Abigail asked what he was doing. Seeing the document in Ben's hands, Abigail realized what he had done and started screaming. Ben silently handed the document back to her, but when she began calling nearby police, Ian spotted her with it and sent his men after her. Ben tried to save Abigail, but Ian's men captured her. Meanwhile, museum guards discovered the theft, locked down the building, and called the FBI. In Ian's van, he demanded the document from Abigail, but she refused. Suddenly something came in front of the van and the driver swerved. Everyone in back fell and Abigail tried to escape, ending up hanging from the open door. Riley and Ben pursued to help Abigail. After a while, Ian managed to take the document from her. Ben, timing his move, pulled Abigail into Riley's van, saving her. They left the main road. When Ian later opened the document, he realized it was fake. Ben had tricked them. Abigail was furious that Ben had stolen the document, and now it was in a thug's hands. But Ben produced the real document and explained he had bought a replica in case something went wrong. He also said he had stolen it only so Ian couldn't, because Ian was desperate to find the treasure. When Ben and Riley suggested using chemicals on the back to find clues, Abigail refused, saying it would damage the document. Riley told her not to worry, they wouldn't do anything harmful. The materials they needed were at Ben's house, but Ben couldn't go there because the FBI was surely already searching it. He had used his card at the museum, so their location could be tracked. Stopping the van at the side, Ben said certain important items needed for the treasure hunt were at his home, including letters written by someone named Franklin connected to the treasure. Ben remembered that his father had copies of those letters, so he decided to go to him. Abigail tried to leave with the document, but Ben stopped her. After some argument, she agreed to go with them because she now wanted to see what the treasure was. Meanwhile, FBI agent Sadusky raided Ben's house. They found many of Ben's things, including the letters Ben had mentioned. Sadusky also ordered his people to locate Ben's relatives. A little later, Ben reached his father Patrick's house. Patrick said his only dream was that Ben would visit him for something other than the treasure. Ben replied, "That's exactly why I'm here, Dad. We'll spend time together, it'll be fun, just hand over those letters first." Patrick became angry, saying, "Don't you learn from anyone's mistakes? I wasted my whole life chasing this treasure. Do you want to ruin yours too?" He said there was no such treasure, it was invented to mislead the nation's enemies. Ben ignored his father's words. After examining the back of the document, they found special codes linked to the letters they had come for. When Ben asked again for the letters, Patrick said he had already given them to a museum in Philadelphia. Hearing this, Ben, Abigail, and Riley left. When the FBI reached Patrick's house, they found him tied to a chair. He said his son had tied him up and taken his car. Sadusky ordered the car's license to be tracked. Meanwhile, Ian also realized that the clue from the ship related to those letters in Philadelphia, and set out for them. While Riley was trying to solve the code, a small boy approached him. Riley hesitated, but the boy solved the codes easily. Ian arrived just in time. When the boy was about to find the last word, he bumped into Ian. Seeing the boy working on the paper, Ian followed him, but by the time the boy returned, Riley had left. He had solved the last word himself, and gone straight to Ben and Abigail to tell them the coded message. Ben, Abigail, and Riley began decoding the message. They concluded the clue pointed to the clock outside Independence Hall. Realizing this, the three set out alone to find the next clue as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Ian paid the schoolboy to learn what he had told Riley, and he too headed for Independence Hall. There, Ben followed the clock's direction, and noticed a special mark on a brick in the wall. He removed the brick and found an old pair of spectacles. It was a special kind of glasses. Ben immediately showed them to Abigail and Riley. He put them on and looked at the map on the back of the Declaration. He saw a specific mark, and, nearby, a message written in a few words. Just then they noticed Ian roaming around with his men. They decided to split up. Abigail and Riley had the Declaration and soon left with it. Avoiding Ian, they got quite far, but at one point a bus came very close and nearly hit them. In the confusion, Ian snatched the Declaration from them. Abigail and Riley phoned Ben at once and told him what had happened. Ben said, "Let's meet quickly at the car," but the FBI had already found Ben's car. When Ben arrived, the FBI arrested him. Abigail and Riley arrived a bit late and slipped away unnoticed. In custody, Ben told Agent Sadusky the whole story. How Ian had stolen the document, how they had solved one puzzle after another. When Sadusky saw the spectacles taken from Ben realized they could be used in another way. Just then Ian called Ben's phone. The FBI told him to put it on speaker. Ian threatened Ben to meet him in a public place with the glasses, warning that if Ben told the FBI anything, he would kill Ben's friends. The FBI did not want to miss the chance to catch Ian. They told Ben to meet him as planned and placed agents everywhere. When Ben went to meet Ian, it turned out to be a trap. Ian's men suddenly appeared and broke Ben out. On the way, Abigail called Ben, and said she had made a deal with Ian to free Ben, but Ben would have to lead them to the treasure. When Ian and Ben met again, Ian returned the declaration and the old pipe from the ship. He then demanded the next clue from Ben. Ben said he had nothing and didn't know. Ian showed that he had kidnapped Ben's father Patrick. Under this threat, Ben had to admit that the mark he had seen on the map was a church symbol. Soon they all reached that church. Ben again used the special glasses and looked at the map. This time he got a different clue, an odd name. Everyone was confused about its meaning. They realized there was a crypt beneath the church. Ian and all his men immediately went down. Patrick quietly told Ben they needed a way to get rid of Ian, because they were only alive as long as they were useful. Ian phoned Ben and asked for the next clue. They found the name on the map and broke through a wall, revealing a tunnel. Ian told Ben to go first. Inside, they reached a very old place that probably hadn't been opened for years. There were wooden stairs and an old lift. Patrick warned that the wooden stairs were dangerous after all these years, but Ian forced everyone to go down. While descending, many stairs suddenly broke. Shaw fell and died. That whole section was collapsing, and everyone else had to jump onto the lift to save themselves. The lift carried them to an empty chamber. Ian asked Ben where the treasure was. Ben pretended he didn't know. Ian angrily threatened to leave them there if Ben didn't talk. Patrick then said the next clue was inside this lantern, adding that there was an identical lantern in a Boston church, so perhaps the treasure was there. Ian still left them, saying he would come back for them after he found the treasure. Riley, worried, said they were going to die there. Ben and Patrick then told Riley and Abigail they had lied to Ian. The lantern was only a distraction. They found another clue that led them to a new room. It looked as though someone had been there before. Ben grew a little sad and told Patrick, "You were always right. Maybe there is no treasure." Patrick said they shouldn't despair. Someone had just beaten them here. Ben still refused to give up and kept searching the walls. He found special locks, one of which was missing a piece shaped exactly like the pipe from the ship. Ben inserted the pipe into the lock and turned it, opening a secret room. At last, behind it was the treasure. The entire chamber was filled with treasure. Ancient books, gold coins, jewelry, antiques, and so on. The very things Patrick and his father had sought for years were here. Everyone rejoiced. After a while they also found stairs leading out. Ben went up first and met a man, borrowed his phone, and called Sadusky. Sadusky arrived shortly, and Ben told him about the treasure. Ben said he wanted nothing for himself, but he set some conditions. Abigail would face no action. Full credit for finding the treasure would go to him and his family. Riley would get a share, and most important, Ben would not go to jail. Sadusky accepted all his terms, and later arrested Ian as he tried to enter the Boston church. Within days, the treasure was sent to museums around the world. One day everyone was celebrating, but Riley was a bit annoyed. He asked Ben why he had refused the government's payment, saying they could have taken something. Ben laughed and didn't answer, but Riley got into his new car, showing he too had gotten a good payout. After he left, we learned that Ben and Abigail have married, and finally they enter their new home together. If you enjoyed the video, hit like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.